Hey there, let's look at what is coming up this week. Some shifts in energy. We've got Mercury stationing retrograde midweek on Wednesday. Mercury in Virgo goes retrograde for its journey backward through the Zodiac for a few weeks until mid-September. And we also have the Sun shifting from Leo into Virgo. And so that brings us into the third trimester, I guess, the third zodiac sign of summer, as we are, in the last third, the final third of summer, heading into next month's fall equinox when the moon goes into Libra. So we have, and we also this week we've got a first quarter moon. So just right after the sun goes into Virgo, the moon will form its exact 90-degree square with the sun, and the moon at that point will be in Sagittarius. So we're going through moon being in Libra right now as of today. And this is your astro vibe, by the way, for Sunday, August 20th. I'm Marina Ormes, and so jumping back in, we have the moon going from Libra, where it is today, and then it will this week shift into Scorpio and then Sagittarius, where it will form that first quarter square. So remember, that's 1/4 of the way through the moon cycle. And so when we set our intentions with the new moon, we plant the seeds. That first quarter moon brings with it an opportunity to shift, an opportunity to see where we might be going in a direction that's not really in alignment with our intentions, and where we might need to take the wheel, steer ourselves on course, get back into alignment, or get into alignment in ways that we haven't been aware of. So I'm going to be covering all of this today. Thank you for joining me. And let's take a look, starting with the Mercury retrograde. So that energy of Mercury changing directions, right? It happens 3 or 4 times a year, where Mercury hovers. It slows down at a point in the zodiac, because normally the planets just keep on their journey traveling through the zodiac, and then they hit these retrograde periods where in the case of Mercury, it will slow down and hover over a point in Virgo, and that's called the station. And then from that place where it slows down and hovers, and then changes direction to go backward. So just as a reminder, Mercury is the planet of communication, of thinking, ideas, problem solving, mental processing. And when it goes retrograde, we're reviewing old territory. So Mercury retrograde is a time to rethink, reconsider, renegotiate, and really think more deeply about the words we've chosen, the approaches we've used, our ways of thinking about things. And so it's a chance to sort of rethink and reconsider, and go back over old ways of thinking to get into a better place, to find new ways of thinking, to open to new possibilities. And so it takes us inward. Mercury retrograde takes us inward, deeper into ourselves, deeper into our own needs to, kind of review our thinking, or, ask ourselves, is that thinking really serving me? Are those thoughts in alignment with what I want? So as we reach this first quarter moon, the moon and Mercury, are doing their own independent dances, but they happen, in this case, around the same time. So midweek this week, Mercury stations on Wednesday, about 1 p.m. my time, which is Los Angeles time, US Pacific. You can adjust for your time zone. And the first quarter moon comes, later that day, later that same day. So I don't have the exact time right in front of me, but it will be maybe after midnight. So very, very early on Thursday. So somewhere in there. Anyway, around Wednesday, Thursday, we have that first quarter square moon energy. And that, again, it brings pressure to ask ourselves, where am I in alignment with what I want? How am I choosing the thinking, the beliefs, the feelings, the actions? How am I doing self-care that is helping to keep me on track with being the person I need to be to achieve or experience or manifest the things I want to manifest? And if you've been following me, you might recall that we are in a moon cycle that began with the Leo new moon last week, and we have that new moon. It was August 16th was the Leo new moon. So we have that energy that we are working on throughout this cycle of creativity, self-expression, thinking about who we need to be to manifest the things we want to experience. And so planting the seeds with the new moon means getting clear about your intentions. You can do that at any point. So if you missed the new moon, you could still do it now and just kind of set your intentions to align retroactively with that new moon energy. So we're still working through this moon cycle, and it's about self-expression. So we're working on the themes of questions of who am I? How do I share? How do I put my creative work out there in the world? What is my creative process, right? So bolstering your own self-care in ways that help support your creativity, your self-expression, and also, of course, questions of how are you going to put your work out there? How are you going to share? Who are you speaking or sharing with? Who needs to hear what you have to say? Who needs to see what you have to express or communicate? So asking those questions about reaching your audience. Who do you need to reach? How can you reach them? And again, this is everything from how do you talk to your neighbor, or how do you show up in a public situation like the grocery store or the post office with by being the kind of person you want to be to support the kind of world you want to live in. So does that mean having a smile for the person next to you? Does that mean opening the door for them or offering to help if they're struggling with something? Does that mean, just asking yourself, like, what kind of world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a world that is filled with kindness? Then how can you be more kind? Because that kindness helps to create an environment of kindness. It helps you to affirm that kindness still matters, that it's worthwhile, and it does make a difference in ways we don't always even know. So okay, so going back to, so that first quarter moon is saying, what do you need to shift? It's like any square in astrology, which is 90-degree relationship between two planets, and the first quarter moon is a 90-degree relationship between the sun and the moon. The third quarter moon is also a 90-degree relationship between the sun and the moon. And what we see is the moon being half full. So for those geeks, those of you who are geeks out there, and maybe with Mercury going retrograde, we're all a little bit geeky right now. Mercury in Virgo. What 90 degrees means, literally, like you can see it in the sky. So what it means is that when the sun is setting, the moon is overhead. And vice versa, when the moon is rising, the sun is overhead. So in other words, we have a giant circle that in the sky that is around the equator. So if you are north of the equator, you want to be, you know, facing south to picture what I'm talking about. So picture yourself facing south, facing toward the equator. And then you're going to draw a giant circle in the sky that extends outward from the equator. And more or less, that is the path that the planets, including the sun and the moon, take in their journey around the zodiac. So if there's a big disk, imaginary disk coming out from the Earth's equator, and we you know, and it's gonna vary somewhat with the sun's path. So the sun sometimes is north of the equator, sometimes is south of the equator. That's why we have seasons. So that's the plane of the ecliptic. Anyway, the sun's path can be off of the plane of the ecliptic. And so anyway, I don't want to I'm going to lose a bunch of you. Anyway, okay, so that's if you see that big disc going out from the eclipse, from the equator, and that is the path, a giant circle all the way around the Earth. So if you are standing facing south toward that equator, if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're going to see the sun and the moon following that giant circle that extends out from the equator. So when the sun is setting in the west, the moon is directly overhead. So in that giant circle, they are, you know, one is up, one is to the west. If one was up, the other might be to the east. Anyway, they're 90 degrees apart. So that's what we mean. And that's when we see the moon half full, is when it is 90 degrees away from the sun. When they are together, the sun and moon are setting at the same time. And that is the new moon and rising. They're both rising at the same time. They're both up ahead, overhead at the same time, and they're both setting at the same time. So that means they're together. If they're opposite, the moon is setting at the same time, the sun is rising. So when the sun is setting, the moon is rising, and vice versa, because they're on opposite sides of that giant circle. So the full moon is when it is obviously fully illuminated, and when it is opposite the sun. And so when one is setting, the other is rising, because they are opposite. So that's what we're talking about with all this astrology. Okay, so for those of you I didn't lose, thank you for hanging in there through that. With that first quarter square and any 90-degree relationship between two planets, what we have is an invitation to get ourselves to course correct. So get ourselves back on track. It's like taking the wheel of your car, bringing yourself back between the lines, or maybe taking a hard right turn if that's what you need to do. But it's the conscious choice to steer. And that is what is happening with that first quarter moon, is that we are being pressured to make a conscious choice to steer, or to get ourselves on track with the intentions we set. So something shows up in your life that says, hey, you know, this is what's happening. And whatever's showing up, it's like, do you want to be doing it that way? Do you want to change? Do you want to take a hard right turn? Do you want to get it back between the lines? Where are you, and where do you need to be? And what do you need to do to bring it back into where you need to be? So do you need to change your thinking? Do you need to shift a funky feeling that you're having, right? Like shake it up, get outside, breathe some fresh air. Sometimes you can't, right? Right now we have a lot of very, very tragic, in my area, you know, very extremely poor air quality, sometimes with the forest fires. It's just, yeah, very tragic. Anyway, so if you can't get fresh air, find what you can do to take care of yourself. Slow down, take some time, take some downtime, shift what you need to shift. That's the point, is if you're feeling funky or overwhelmed by things, what do you need to do to take care of yourself to shift that feeling? Because as hard and challenging and tragic as things can feel, there's also positive energy to always present to balance that out. So what can you find in your life that is positive? How can you balance that out with the feeling of love, connection, hope, something you can do, right? A positive action. Maybe you just need some rest so that you can come back a little bit more rejuvenated, a little bit more inspired to be able to think more clearly about what you can do. So lots of invitations with that first quarter moon to shift how you're approaching things, how you are taking care of yourself to be able to respond in ways that help you get and stay in alignment with who you need to be to create the things you want to create. I had a video last week about the most common mistake people make during manifestation practices. And one of you made a comment about you would love it if I could give you dates when I'm referring back to a video. So let me see if I can do that. It's a little challenging for me. Okay, it was on August 15th. So you can look back to my video from August 15th for the most common mistake people make in manifestation practices. And that will give you a little help maybe with anything you're needing some support with in how you think about things. So, okay, so that first quarter moon is happening as Mercury stations to go retrograde. And because we're heading toward that retrograde period for Mercury, you might have been noticing a lot of people have been asking me lately, like, what is going on with Mercury? Why are things being so glitchy, so frustrating, and having difficulty with either technology or communications? Those are classic Mercury retrograde experiences. In the period where Mercury is in the degrees where it's going to go retrograde, sometimes we can start to feel that as we head toward that Mercury retrograde period. So what's happening is that when Mercury goes retrograde, we're reviewing those degrees of the zodiac. We're recovering old territory, right? Going back where we've been before. So it's giving us an opportunity to again, rethink, reconsider, renegotiate, all those things. And because Mercury will be retrograde in Virgo, we are also having a very critical approach to things. And so Virgo is very detail oriented. It likes to really get down into the nitty gritty to fix things, to make them work better. So it's very analytical. It is very focused on finding what's wrong. Right. So what is the teeny tiny mistake in there that I'm, can see because I'm really looking for details, and how can I fix that to make things work better, to make the whole or the outcome or the project to be completed in a more beautiful, more thorough way with this just incredible attention to detail that creates beautiful results, right? And not just haphazard, not just, yes, I finished it, but like I really put everything into this, and I made what I'm capable of making because I attended to every detail and all the minutia. And so it's tedious, it's laborious, it takes time, it takes focus and concentration, but that is what helps us to create things that are more perfect. What is perfection? But it is close to spirit. And Pisces is the sign that is opposite Virgo. So with Virgo, we have the diligence of the hard work, the attention to detail, the ability to see what's wrong and how to fix it. And then with Pisces, we have, of course, transcendence of all of that with the flow of unconditional love. And so there's this beautiful dynamic between Pisces and Virgo, and how they oppose each other and how they balance each other and how they can work together. So with that Virgo energy, if we are really being of service, right, attending to details without ego, so in that, with that Virgo humility of like, I'm not attached to this, but I'm going to give it everything I can. I'm going to work hard and do what I can to make it beautiful and perfect. And then we end up, through that process of humility and service and effort and hard work and critical eye, we end up creating things that are more perfect, more beautiful, and therefore closer to the divine perfection of spirit, of God, goddess, all that is, the universe, the flow, the unconditional love, all that stuff. So it's the earthly version, right? How we create things from that earthly physical humility to represent the energy of the bigger picture of the divine. And vice versa, the bigger picture of the divine is transcendent. It doesn't have a vehicle, I guess, a vessel here on earth, until we are choosing to be that vessel and putting our effort into it, our service, our humility, our willingness to be humble, to do the steps and the tasks to bring that spiritual energy present here on earth. So it goes both ways. We need both sides of that dynamic. It's really a beautiful representation of what it means to be human, to be spiritual and a spirit being, and also to be a human being with faults and frailties and all the things that come with being human, all of our limitations. So, okay, so I got off on that, and the Virgo energy of Mercury retrograde in Virgo is asking us to rethink how we've done things, to go over details again. It's Mercury represents the energy of the mind, problem solving, thinking things through. What words are we choosing? How are we communicating? So it's getting down into the nitty gritty about how we communicate. Could be our technology systems, our words, writing projects, communication projects of any kind, learning, teaching, anything that has to do with the exchange of information, research. Yeah, so it's writing personally, like journaling, writing things out so you can get more clear about your thinking. You can see it there, but it's also it could be through your work. It could be through something that's important about communication in the world. It could be with your family or your partner. It could be communicating with a friend. It could be, again, creative work and how you communicate, right? So maybe it's a writing project you're working on, things that you are composing in terms of choosing the words for those. So that's what this upcoming Mercury retrograde is going to bring. It's going to bring a process of, it's going to be especially critical this time. And normally Mercury goes retrograde. We always have that experience of review, reconsidering, renegotiating. That's Mercury retrograde. Things could, communication can be muddled or confused. Technology can get interrupted. Signals can get interrupted, right? Your internet signal, your phone signal, all kinds of things. Those all have to do with Mercury. Now, but with Mercury in Virgo retrograde, it is particularly bringing this critical piece. So what we want to watch out for, especially in our self-care practices, is that tendency to be hard on ourselves. Talk about it a lot here, right? But if you have an inner critical voice, you might notice it surfacing during this Mercury retrograde. So you want to notice it. You want to You want to forgive yourself for being critical, judgmental, hard on yourself. Any thoughts that you have about not being good enough, not being worthy, not being as good as the person next door or whoever, right? Whoever you might be comparing yourself to. And with that energy of noticing and then forgiving yourself for any judgments you have, criticisms, you get to remember that you are worthy as is, and bring in that spiritual piece of that bigger picture that you are just a human being walking this path, trying to figure it out. You're doing great. You're not doing anything wrong. This is just an opportunity to see what you could do better at. And that is the beauty of Virgo. It's really like helping us. If we think of it that way, it's helping us to recognize, hey, maybe I want to give a little attention to this, or make some improvements or repairs or fixes in this area. And just the same way, you would walk through your house and you would see where's the paint scuffed, or the something that's not something coming detached, or needing a screw, loose screw repaired, or whatever, right? Whatever you're noticing, it's just like, hey, this needs some attention. It just wants to be fixed, and then it will be perfect again. So that's it. It's not about going, that paint is scuffed, so therefore I'm not worthy. And I've failed to do whatever it is we think we should be achieving. And then you just go, yeah, hey, there's some scuff on the paint there. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to touch that up. We're going to make that better. And on we go, right? Onward. We don't need to dwell on it. It's just something that is there to be noticed. So how might that be showing up in your thoughts? You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about your life. You're thinking about your work, right? Your creative work. So noticing what could be better, making it better, and moving on. That's all it is. It's the dwelling on it and the meaning that we attach to it. Like, okay, it's not perfect. That means I'm not capable. That is absolutely not true. If something is perfect, why would it mean you're not capable? It just means it's not perfect. It means it's in process. You're working on it. It's teaching you what you need to learn more about, or how you can work on it, how you can give it that attention to make it better. Okay. So that's kind of what we are looking at this week. And today's Libra moon again brings the energy of relationship, partnerships. I shared yesterday more about that Libra energy. And so that was August 19th video. I'll try to get those dates in there for you. And by the way, thank you so much to those of you who have been sharing the wonderful comments. I got caught up on them yesterday, and so was able to reply a little bit. Such wonderful comments I'm hearing from you. So I love those. Keep them coming. I just so appreciate all of you for being here. The other thing that's happening is that we've had really for the last 3 months, June, July, August into September, this square between Pluto and the lunar nodes happening in the bigger picture. It's in the collective. It's really kind of a karmic process of going through some hard stuff, and some of the experience of tragedy that's happening in the world, and also challenges that are showing up in our lives can be pushing us to do things differently than how we have in the past. So sometimes these old patterns from fears from our past, traumas from childhood, etc., maybe even from past lives, could be surfacing through the events or the challenges or circumstances that are showing up in your life. And instead of making yourself wrong or feeling like that means you've failed to, I hear this sometimes. It's like people feel like, oh, I've been working on myself all my life. Why is my life so messed up? You've been working on yourself, and that's why you're getting this opportunity to keep doing it, right? It's deepening. It is expanding. Your capacity to respond is growing. And that is why things are coming into your life for you to work on that you wouldn't have been ready to work on before. And so it's it doesn't last forever either. So we just have to take care of ourselves. We have to support ourselves on that deeper level and keep going, because you don't know where we're headed. Just because things might look bleak on any given day, they also might look cheery and bright on another day. So keep going, because life is filled with that balance. And the more we can open to possibilities, to shifts, to opening the door to miracles, or however you want to think about that, right? Like the light coming in, the shift, the solution showing up, that is the synchronicity of setting our intentions and opening our hearts to the universe showing us how things are good, in addition to sometimes experiencing the hard stuff, right? So keep going, keep doing your self-care, keep being patient with the process when you need to, because it's not always fast. And if things are feeling intense for you in your life, take it slow. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself, and especially watch for any judgments with Mercury in Virgo. And just remember, it's all it is an invitation for you to be of service to the bigger picture. And through being kind to yourself, through forgiveness, through being patient with the process. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I am Marina Ormes, and you can learn more about me at astrologyheals.com. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm here every day with astrology for unshakable self-care, giving you tips and tools and tricks to work with the energies that are showing up and make the most of some of the challenges that life throws at us. All right. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Hit subscribe so you don't miss anything, and I'll see you then. All right. Bye for now.